Moonstompers everywhere, a warm welcome back to the channel. I'm Mrs Moonstomper.
And I'm Mr Moonstomper. It's great to have you on board.
Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And guys, if you subscribed, thank you so much. That means the absolute world to us. If you commented, thank you so much also. That really means the world to us.
Yes.
And if you just viewed and said nothing, also that's absolutely fantastic as well. Thank you so much indeed, guys. You're original OGs. So, Mrs Moonstomper, the word reggae, where does that come from?
Yes, supposedly it comes from the word rere or reggae, R-E-G-G-E, R-E-G-G-E. It could mean an argument, a quarrel, or reggae clothes.
In Jamaica.
Jamaican, yes, yes.
Reggae sauce. Reggae sauce, no.
Put some music in your food.
So if you're not from the UK, perhaps you don't know reggae sauce, but it's a condiment.
It's a condiment.
Where was reggae first mentioned?
It was first mentioned by none other than Frederick Nathaniel Hibbert, known as Toots, from Toots and the Maytals fame.
There you go.
Yes.
And what was the song?
The song was Do the Reggae,
1968. 1968,
Yes.
a vintage year, if I do say so myself.
Yes.
So that was the first reggae song. So technically, speculatively, Toots
Yes.
invented reggae.
Oh yes.
Possibly, maybe.
Yes.
So when Toots invented reggae,
Yes. Yes.
other people followed suit, did they not?
Oh yes.
And
yes.
reggae became a thing.
Yes, it did. Yes.
But only in Jamaica at that point in time. So it hadn't crossed the shores to the USA or
No.
England at the time.
Yes.
Had it, but other artists such as
Desmond Decker and the Aces, John Holt and the Paragons, Harry J. All Stars, Toots themselves and Maytals.
yeah, it became Toots and the Maytals.
Yes,
'cause
Toots
it was
and
just
the Maytals.
the Maytals.
The Maytals
at
back
first.
then, yes.
Yeah, and then it became Toots and the Maytals.
Yes.
So there's an interesting fact for you. The first mainstream reggae artist, the first one who shot into the mainstream, was not Bob Marley and the Wailers, like people think.
Okay.
He was none other than Jimmy Cliff.
Oh yes.
Did you know that?
Yes.
Well, yes. So he did. What was the film?
But how do they come?
And there was a soundtrack to it.
There was, yes.
And that was the first. That was probably his first reggae album.
Okay.
Believe it or believe it not.
Yes.
Now he was signed to, if I remember rightly, Island Records.
Yes, he was.
So Island Records. Who was in charge of Island Records? Mrs Moonstomper.
A man called Chris Blackwell.
Chris Blackwell.
Yes.
So Chris Blackwell started Island Records in 1959.
Oh yes.
That's a long time ago.
Oh
guys.
yes.
And he was the son of a sugar plantation heiress.
Oh yes. Yes.
Believe it or not, but he was born in England and he was white, but lived in Jamaica and England as well, so flitted between the two.
He did.
And he started off by getting these rare grooves from Jamaica, bring them to England, and he would cart them all over the place to wherever there was an audience that wanted them, such as Birmingham. Birmingham had a black contingent, especially in the Handsworth area.
Okay.
And we'll get to that shortly, because that's a really good point about Handsworth.
yes.
He signed rock acts in the main to Island Records, people such as Stevie Winwood. So if you don't know who Stevie Winwood was, he was with the Spencer Davis Group, was
Yes,
he
he
not?
was, yes.
So he also signed the Spencer Davis Group as well, amongst many other people such as Free as well, Brian Ferry and Roxy Music. Who even knew that? So that was way later.
Yeah.
But one of his early signings was none other than
Millie Smalls.
Millie Smalls, My Boy Lollipop.
Yes.
And I think he actually went on tour with her, which is worth a mention.
Yes,
But that was in the days of Scars. I think it was the early 60s, if I remember.
Yes, it was, 62.
At that point. So, fast forward a little bit, and Island Records was a big concern at the time. So you got the American side of it, the sort of Western side, which was from Jamaica, that was into the USA. And then the English base, which was all over England. And what he wanted to do, Chris Blackwell, was get a black music artist or a band of black musicians and turn them into rock musicians.
Wow.
That was his goal. And at the time, in 1972, Bob Marley and the Wailers were in England.
Yeah.
And they had got no money. They had commercial LPs, but none of them were really, really successful, and they were kind of scratching a living. And in the United Kingdom, nobody was taking them seriously, but they really wanted to meet Chris Blackwell.
Yes.
They walked into his studio, and Chris Blackwell took an instant liking to Bob Marley.
Okay.
He looked at him, he got something different about him.
Yes.
It was his swagger, it was his rock star looks, he was just way different to the others. Now, at that point in time, he was with
The Wailers.
And who were
Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer.
they wanted to make a record.
Oh yes.
So Chris Blackwell gave them $4,000 or £4,000, whichever it was,
To
make a record.
Oh yes.
And they went back to Jamaica. Basically, they couldn't afford to get back to Jamaica because they made no money on that tour.
Oh, dear.
And he gave them £4,000 advance, said, go back to Jamaica and we're going to make a record. And the LP Catch a Fire was born.
Yes.
Now, at that point in time, they started building that record in the studio. Now, Chris Blackwell was, although he knew ska inside out, and he knew the scene inside out, he'd never come across reggae. And he watched these musicians play, and he was just absolutely gassed. He was like, whoa, that's different. So we got two white musicians in to support them, which was none other than
Wayne Perkins.
And the funny thing is, himself and the other chap, we'll put the name of the other chap, he was a keyboardist, not so well known.
No.
They were absolutely gassed at this style,
Gosh.
and they kind of struggled, but they got the gist of it, and they beefed this record up. And Catch a Fire was finished actually in London.
Oh.
So Bob Marley was flown into London to oversee the production of it, and he and Chris Blackwell did Catch a Fire.
I see.
And on the front of the LP cover is Bob Marley by himself, not Bob Marley and the Wailers.
No Wailers, no.
And this is where the alleged bone of contention started. The Wailers believed that Chris Blackwell, so was it Bunny Wailer? What did he call Chris Blackwell?
Chris Whitewell.
Chris Whitewell, okay, fair enough. And I think he believed that because Bob Marley was actually mixed race, which I didn't know Bob Marley was mixed race. I'm ashamed to say I didn't know he was mixed race
Here,
until
a little bit older.
Yeah, I think I was in my teens.
Yeah, I was in my teens as well.
Yeah, and I just didn't realise. I just thought he was like a Rasta man. But hey ho, you live and you learn. And I kind of digressed there. But he thought that Chris Blackwell was trying to cut him out of the deal.
Okay.
And the proof of the pudding for Bunny Wailer came when the band went on to actually tour that LP.
Yes.
So they went on to promote it on tour in the USA and England. And at the end of the tour, the record company normally gives the band a statement. It's a financial statement.
Oh.
This is what you earned. This is how much you're going to get. This is what you owe. And to Bunny Wailer's dismay, he found out he owed Island Records a bucket load of money, and he hadn't made a penny. And there is nothing odd about that, because that happens on the first LP, because literally you've advanced a load of money and then you've got to recoup it back, and you've probably done that by the time you made your second LP normally, to the point where you go into the black and you make an absolute fortune, to the point where Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh actually left the band.
Oh, I see.
So the band changed. And with the band changing, you had a complete different line. So you had female backing vocals, which were
the I3s.
The I3s, which were
Marcia Griffiths, Rita Marley. I can't remember the other lady's name.
The third one. We'll put a name on the screen.
Her name,
but Rita Marley was Bob Marley's first wife.
Yes.
Was she?
Well, the only one he married anyway.
Yeah, and she's actually got power of attorney over his estate.
Oh wow, gosh.
Or did have. But I kind of digressed there. There's a fun fact for you about Bob Marley.
What's this, Mr and Mrs Moonstomper?
There was a programme on the TV a few years ago called Counts Customs.
Okay.
If you remember it, and it was Danny the Count.
Oh yes.
Was it Las Vegas?
I think it was.
And he was a car and motorbike customiser.
Yes.
And he customised Bob Marley's Mercedes. I think it was an SL 350 or an SLK 350, something like that. That Rita Marley had kept. I think it was Rita Marley. She kept it. She took it to him, and he customised it and restored it back to absolutely brand new. But I digress there completely. So reggae became mainstream.
Yes.
And if you listen to Bob Marley's later music, that was it was commercial. So a lot of the bass was dropped.
Yes.
And it was, the point of that was that it was saleable.
Okay.
So that white people would actually go and buy it.
Yes.
White people in England would go and buy it. White people in the United States would go and buy it. And that was the whole sort of purpose behind that exercise.
Yes. That reggae to the slower, smoother sound as well. And it became proper reggae.
That's correct.
With the heavy bass.
That's it.
Yes.
So it's all about the bass.
About the bass.
About the bass.
No treble.
Because
no treble.
you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble.
Yeah, okay. Get in the bin, Mrs Moonstomper. So bands in the 70s, once reggae became mainstream, other bands started to copycat that.
Yes.
Now these are black artists.
Oh, I see.
We'll come on to something else in a moment, and this runs sort of parallel with it. But we won't talk too much about that. So other artists of the 70s, British artists.
Yes.
Who do you remember?
I remember Aswad and Still Pulse.
Aswad and Still Pulse.
Yes, yes.
Amazing groups as well. And a little bit later, you Black Uhuru.
Black Uhuru. Oh yeah, don't do
Yeah.
it.
And then there was other Jamaican artists coming through like Burning Spear.
Yes.
In fact, Still Pulse supported Burning Spear, you believe. But running parallel to that as well, reggae started to rub off on white groups,
Oh yes, yes.
if you remember. So what was a good example of a white group who picked up the reggae
That
band?
group you're on about, 10cc.
I don't like cricket.
Oh no.
I love it.
Yeah.
That one, yeah. So
Yes.
that was Dreadlock Holiday, it was called.
Dreadlock Holiday.
Yeah, where they actually took that reggae influence and
That's
then turned
it.
it into something.
They
But then
did.
later, other bands started to do it, such as Elvis Costello.
Oh yeah,
He-
watching the detectives.
Yes, he had a stab at it as well, so it's got a reggae feel. And the Police as well.
Yes.
So you listen to some of the Police's finest music.
Yes. Message in the bottle.
But yeah, what they did was they had weird timings. They didn't have 4/4 timing on a lot of their songs.
Oh.
Or they would switch timings, but they'd put a reggae feel into it.
Yes.
Which was kind of bizarre, but you know, almost like white reggae, dare I say.
It still sounded good though.
It did.
I think-
And then, you know, probably the biggest white reggae band of all time is
Oh, yeah.
probably
UB
UB40.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
They've got a couple of black members in there, and
They
they've got a
have.
Yemeni in there, but the majority were white.
Yes, yes,
And
there were.
it was fronted by white people.
The two brothers, Robin and Dally Campbell.
Rewinding back then, I mean, then other bands as well, Rush as well.
Rush,
So if you don't know
yes.
who Rush are, go and check Rush out. One of my all-time favourite bands.
Canadian rock band, yes.
prog rock band.
Yes.
But they ran the baton with white reggae, believe it or not, or
Okay.
a white reggae fill for 3 LPs.
Right.
Where they emulated the Police, believe it or not.
Oh.
And they cited the Police as one of their favourite bands. And they just picked that baton up and they ran with it, and it was absolutely superb.
Yes.
But, you know, I don't class that as reggae at all, or the Police as reggae. It's just got a style to
That's
it.
it, the style and the
Yeah.
sound. maybe.
So that's rubbed off.
Yes.
But sort of turning the clock back now, so going back to the mid-70s, bands like Still Pulse, when they
Yes.
came out, they couldn't get a gig.
Oh.
They went everywhere in Birmingham, in the West Midlands, in England, and they couldn't get a gig for love nor money because nobody wanted to host those guys.
No.
And they, weird fact for you, they toured with punk bands, white punk bands such as the Stranglers and XTC, because because those guys actually went with the Rock Against Racism.
I see.
They were under that banner and actually managed to get gigs with those guys and feel safe until they could get their own gigs, until they supported people like Burning Spear, who was absolutely colossal at that point in time. The only thing is with bands like that, because of the experiences they had, where it was very, very negative, a lot of their songs are very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Personal, like the personal experiences, what they've been through.
Protesting.
Yeah, sort of.
Protesting. That's what I say, very protesting. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I love that band.
Yes.
But their first LP, Handsworth Revolution, and songs like Handsworth Revolution, Ku Klux Klan.
Oh yes.
You know, that shows what they sort of grew up with and what they were dealing with, and the things they were singing about.
That's it.
But Bob Marley also did that as well, which is kind of, you know, which is not every reggae artist does that, do
No. But they seem to sing from a personal experience.
they do, and Bob Marley actually saw Steel Pulse, and Chris Blackwell saw Steel Pulse, and they signed to Island Records as well, only for a couple of LPs, then they parted ways. But in that mid-70s, something happened.
Okay.
So dub and dub plates.
Yes.
That happened. And
Indeed.
what was dub and dub plate, Mrs Moonstomper?
Dub plates was really, really good. It had a heavier bass and slower, much more slower than reggae.
It did indeed.
Yes.
But it was, dub is exactly what it is. It's dubbed over vocals.
That's it, yes.
Exactly that. So it's somebody else's music, normally slightly remixed,
Yes.
with what you call an MC. Or a toaster. Not a two-slice toaster, bread, but a toaster with a microphone.
Yes.
Just like that. And those guys brought dub and dub plate to the masses, did they not?
Yes, they
and
did.
you'd see those guys at carnivals.
With the big massive speakers.
That's it, emulating the Coxsone sound type affair.
And sometimes in the blues parties as well, we mentioned in our other video.
Absolutely massive.
Yes.
Again, but during that period, so the mid to late 70s and the early 80s,
Yes.
reggae, in my opinion, so my humble opinion only, that was the backbeat to the trouble on the streets. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but when I look at the Handsworth riots, the Brixton riots, the riots all across the United Kingdom,
Yes.
and those were in impoverished, very, dare I say, black areas.
Oh yes.
Where
It's true though.
yeah, where it was, you know, whether it was ghettoised or whether it was, you know, probably the wrong thing to say, but even not inward looking, but it was very misunderstood, and the trouble spread, and literally that was the backbeat of those years, and that's what it reminds me of. I saw the Handsworth riots the second time round, not the first time round. I didn't see it then, but the second time round I went to have a look for myself.
Oh dear.
But that was the backbeat on the street.
See.
And, you know, I'm not saying that reggae did that, but
No.
I'm not saying it even contributed to it, but those songs were born out of those troubles,
Yes.
whether that be right or wrong.
It's like you said, the Handsworth Revolution and police and thieves in the street.
There you go. So take a look at this VT now, guys. We've brought together a little VT for you, and this will demonstrate it for you, and we'll come back to you shortly.
Out in the street, they call it murder.
hope you enjoyed that, guys.
Yes. So, Mr. Moonstomper, did you know that Chrissie Hynde from the Pretenders, the lead singer from Pretenders, did you know she discovered UB40? She saw them in a pub one time.
I think I heard that. She saw them in a pub playing. Now,
Yes.
if my memory serves me correctly, UB40 are actually 45 years old this year.
Yes.
But if I remember rightly, I think they actually got the idea for it in 1978.
Okay.
But they, although it was UB40 in name, they hadn't formed yet because they hadn't got instruments.
Oh.
And the ones who had couldn't actually play their instruments.
Oh, dear.
But that's how bands rolled in those days.
Yes, have to start somewhere.
Yeah, and that band is actually named, it's aptly named after it's an unemployment form. So in the United Kingdom, you have something called unemployment benefits. In the United States, would that be either similar to welfare?
Yes, I think so.
Yes, so if you haven't got a job, you get a small amount of money
Yes.
until you can find a job.
That's it.
And that UB40 actually stood for Unemployment Benefit 40, which was the
Yes.
name of the form. And I think that form was for those unemployed. Then you sign off. You sign on every week,
yes.
and then you sign off when you find a job.
Yes.
And they did. The job was we're now in a band, and their first ever gig was in a pub called the
Hare and Hounds.
The Hare and Hounds in Birmingham.
Birmingham, yes.
And that was 45 years ago. And they
Wow.
played at a friend's birthday party.
Yes.
And I think thereafter, Chrissie Hynde saw them playing another pub.
Oh.
And the rest is history with
Yes.
those guys. But conversely, so the first LP, Signing Off, that was recorded in a bedsit,
Oh.
Birmingham.
Of all places.
Birmingham, England, not Birmingham, Alabama. And with that, if you've got a good enough hi-fi or a good enough graphic equaliser or a good enough computer, if you play around with the sound, you can actually hear the birds singing in the background in the garden.
Okay.
From where different songs were recorded or different instruments were recorded. You can hear the birds singing in the background because they didn't quite have the money to mic everything up properly and isolate sounds, which was kind of strange. But that LP is absolutely raw and it's sheer brilliance, and it shows that it's reggae personified.
Yes.
But different. It's reggae, but not as we know it, Jim. Or not reggae for purists.
Okay.
But they went on and on and on to success, and all through the 80s, 1980s, and the 1990s, they had major success after success after success.
They did, yes.
And they even made it into the USA as well. But in 2011, they were declared bankrupt.
Goodness me. Yes.
And I think what they did was they made an LP,
Oh.
if I remember rightly, and I can't remember which LP it was. We'll put it on the screen.
Yes.
And they actually gave that away
Oh.
in a newspaper.
All
They
right.
put it in a newspaper, gave it away, and people went and bought 3 million of these newspapers. I think it was a single, or something, or a mini EP. Then when it came to the main LP, the record shops refused to stock it
Okay.
because 3 million people had already bought the single or whatever it was in a newspaper, so nobody wanted to buy the LP, and they fell flat in the face. But literally, they lost their shirts through that deal.
No.
But they ended up arguing, they fell out, they split up, and now you've got 2 UB40s.
One with Robin in and one with Ali.
Yes, so Robin and Ali, Robin Campbell, Ali Campbell.
Yes. Brothers.
Yeah, brothers, and it's kind of strange.
It
that
is.
They no longer speak to each other, but they'd be called UB40. There you go.
I think the one with Robin in is for the anniversary, the 45-year anniversary. It's called UB45.
I don't know.
Yes, it is.
I don't know. I know Ali Campbell has just toured this
Okay.
year, and he's toured in Birmingham, supported by Bitty McLean,
Oh, is it Bitty?
who is another Birmingham reggae artist
Okay.
from the early 1990s.
Yes.
1981, so if you go back to that,
Yes.
Bob Marley lost his life, did he not?
Yes, to cancer at the age of 36.
which is absolutely terrible.
Still so young, yeah.
And
awful.
the world was kind of rocked by that.
Yes, I should say.
Reggae didn't really nosedive. It was
No.
still going,
Yes.
and that's probably when UB40 really picked the band up and kept it going. But Bonnie, was it Peter Tosh?
Peter Tosh, yes.
Peter Tosh. He died. Was it a few years later?
I think it was. He got shot on. I remember that much.
Shot twice, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Shot twice. And then Bonnie Whaler, he died recently. He died about 3 years ago.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah, so all those guys have died.
There are no more.
Yeah. But
Which is a shame.
dance hall kicked off as well, did it not?
Yes, yes.
So, what do you remember about dance hall?
I remember dancehall having a much faster beat, much faster and bassier as well.
Being very upbeat and
Yes.
melodic with this
Upbeat
as well.
tempo,
Very
yes.
melodic. So people like Yellow Man, and there was
Bounty Killer,
Bounty Killer,
Beanie Man, yes.
yeah. Freddie McGregor.
Yeah, Tenor.
There you go. Those.
A few more to mention.
Absolutely, but some of the reggae artists got into it as well, didn't they? You know, the early reggae people like Eka Mouse got into that.
Oh
as well.
yes,
Sure
yes.
did.
He did, yes.
Yeah. So there was also something called Lovers Rock as well. Wasn't there?
Yes, also known as romantic rock. It was reggae, but much slower, and it was dance. Couples got together and danced in like these dance halls, and artists from the artists. Not for you. It's,
Mainly female artists was this.
yeah, it's like Carol Thompson, Sandra Cross, and there's a few others to mention. And the male ones are like Peter Honningale as well.
I'm sure I went to school with Carol Thompson. Probably didn't actually, I don't know, years ago. But there you go. That's
Yes.
a different story altogether. But here's a weird fact for you. Brinsley Ford
From Aswad.
from Aswad.
Yeah.
He was in a programme years ago as a child actor.
Oh yes.
The
Double Deckers.
The Double Deckers.
I remember him, yes, I remember him in Double Deckers.
There you go, but didn't he get into trouble recently?
Well, sort of a few years back now. He
He
took
got
it.
into trouble, yeah. But
Yes.
there you go. But yeah, life's bad, isn't it? So
It is.
let's not talk about
No,
that. So what are the weird, interesting facts do you know about reggae? So did you know the biggest reggae selling artist of all time is none other than ta-da, Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
75 million records sold.
Gosh.
I thought it would have been more. That is not a great deal in the grand scheme of things.
No,
Not
right.
when you're looking at artists punting out 400 million, 300 million. But 75 million, I wouldn't mind selling that.
It's a
Second
nice view.
is none other than, have a guess,
UB40.
UB40 is 70 million.
Wow.
There you go. And who would have thought that? But successful, yes.
They've had a good innings.
I think so. Stratospheric.
Yes.
No, I would think not.
Oh, I see.
To end up bankrupt and then have to go on the road
Oh,
and get
yeah,
to
true.
retour.
That's a shame.
It does happen, but I would have thought they'd got more out of that.
Yeah.
But they toured with some interesting people, UB40 as well.
Okay.
So there was a chap called Pato Banton,
Yes.
who was a 90s kind of reggae sort of.
Like a dancehall artist.
Yeah,
as well.
he was from Birmingham. He was actually a studio engineer for UB40,
Oh.
and that's how they found him.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've met him a couple of times, but
Yes.
it's not. He's a local lad, so I met him, which is kind of strange. But there you go.
But they got together, Pato Banton and UB40, and the sang Baby Come Back.
Which was Eddie Grant's Eddie Grant and the Equals song, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's from the 1960s, yes.
Yeah, and then Eddie Grant redid that song, did he not, in the 80s?
I think so.
He did indeed.
Oh, I see.
So he did it just as Eddie Grant,
Oh, right.
and that also charted as well.
Yes.
So that's charted 3 times.
Gosh. Going back to reggae, we go back again. Reggae is also mentioned in the Dandy Livingstone's track, Reggae in Your Jaggae.
There you go. And what year was that? Do you know?
I think it was 69.
Yeah, so it's just a year after.
Alright.
Just a year after, but it became popular.
Oh, yes.
What's Jaggae?
Reggae is a mix of Jamaican and reggae.
There you go.
Reggae.
Reggae in your jegga.
Yeah.
So, reggae in your jegga, ragged clothes, reggae. It doesn't make sense, but there you go. So, what have we got coming up next time, Mrs Moonstomper?
Oh yes, we have a Paul Weller special.
Paul Weller.
Paul Weller from the Jam, yes.
Paul Weller and the Jam, actually.
Oh yes, yes. From the Jam.
Guys, you won't want to miss that. So if you like Paul Weller, I'm quite fond of Paul Weller actually. I think he's an amazing artist and a very unassuming character in the nicest sense. So you need to stick around, stay tuned. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Guys, you'll be helping us out
Yes, thank
immensely
you.
if you do. So thank you for watching, guys.
Yes, thank you for
Till the
watching.
next time.
Yes, until the next time. Reggae in your jegga.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.